Welcome to another episode of the Midwest Artisan. I'm your host, Andy Hinkle.
And I'm your co-host, Dalton McCleary.
So together, we are both from the Midwest, and we talk Laravel, tech, and anything else happening in the web dev industry. So, Dalton, how's it going?
Hey, man, it's going pretty great for me. I know it's going to be stellar for you because of Laracon this week. So, I mean, mine was super boring. I didn't go. I know you went, so I want to get to it.
Yeah, man, it's been such a really good week. I've just coming back on such a high from Laracon. The community is just the friendliest community there is, you know.
Agreed.
Just with and then like I personally think that, but I'm also in this isolation of being in this community. But then we have people such as Primogen, such as there's developers come from the JavaScript ecosystem that come in and they're like blown away just by how friendly everyone is, just by they almost just give you the shirt off their back, you know, that kind of friendliness. Mm-hmm. And so it's just so good to have that kind of really tight-knit community. So yeah, it was a fantastic conference. Everyone brought it. Like every talk was just like there, and it was so good. Everyone had great feedback with the podcast idea, which we'll get into, like kind of an update on that. I just felt like by the end of it, my brain was just like short-circuiting just from all the different conversations I was having, just going one person to another, and then talking to some vendors, and it was such a great conference.
Yeah, so not like last year where we kind of sat by ourselves at a table and just watched the conference. You like actually talked to people.
Yeah, it was really good. Yeah, last year I talked to the people that I knew from previous conferences. Aaron Francis had a really good talk about just keep putting yourself out there, just making great connections, just talking to people. And that really just resonated with me. Following these people for a number of years on Twitter, it's just like, it's kind of awkward to go up to somebody you've never met, but you've followed, and maybe you've interacted with a few of their tweets and you had just a small conversation. But going up and meeting some of them, they're just so friendly. And last year, I did get an opportunity to meet Caleb for the first time. We had some small conversation, and I've been following over Twitter. We've been listening. I would listen to his show, and I was what he called a reply guy. And I would kind of reply, some things that from the show. Well, he has 2 podcasts. He has No Plans to Merge, and then Notes on Work. Listen to it both. Both are great shows. And he really gets vulnerable on Notes on Work, and just some of the talks there. It's more personal life stuff, and just some great tidbits. So when I got to Laracon, we actually met up we got in line at the same time, and we talked for 30 minutes maybe. We talked for a long time.
Did you shake that man's hand for me?
Oh, of course. I got a picture with him. But the entire time we didn't talk shop. We talked just life. We both have kids, and so we talked about our love for Tim Tracker, which is like a Disney YouTuber. And so it's just so it didn't, by the end of it, like I didn't even talk about Flux or Livewire or all the things that that I love, that I use all the time. We just started talking about we realized like our wives are practically like the same person or same type of personality. It's just wild how there's nowhere in this universe of like other than Laracon for me personally, of like these are all people that are closest to my personality than anywhere else. It's such a good it was such a good conference. I can't say just feel like I keep saying that, but getting to or did you see the basketball game?
I did. Yeah, I was watching the live stream, and it was something, wasn't it? It started off pretty good and then went downhill really fast.
Yeah. Terminal took the win home on that one, but David Hill, he comes from Terminal. He's now the design guy. Really nice dude. I got to talk to him for a short bit at Laracon. He has a really good basketball game, and I was talking to him, and he's like, I haven't played since I was 13. So he's tall as me, but he's about 6'6", 6'7", somewhere in there. He had a really good jump shot, and he really helped the Terminal team take it away. So I got to talking to Jake Bennett, and he was telling me that he was sitting on the sideline, and he had weeks in advance, he would message Taylor and said, hey, if you need anyone else for help in the basketball game, he said, I'd be happy to help. And so it was halftime. The Laravel team was down pretty significantly.
Yep.
Taylor goes up to him. He goes, "Hey man, you're in. Like, let's go." So Taylor grabs like some subs, and he's like, "We'll just take whatever we can get." But unfortunately, they still did not come out with the win. But it was everyone seemed to love it. I really hope they do this again. It was so cool. I wish I could have been there. I was on the way there to Laracon when all this was going down. But
for sure,
it was
they
so
need
cool
to play.
They
need to play stuff like football or soccer or some other just off the wall stuff, just to see. I just want to see developers running around in their unnatural habitats. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it was really fun to watch.
Yeah, there were some that were really good, and some of them you could definitely tell they haven't played in a while. Me personally, I wouldn't be any better than any of those people out there. So it was just so cool to see a really nice event like that Century put on.
Yeah, I really liked it.
Yeah. So getting to Laracon was very interesting. I had quite the experience.
Yeah, I want to hear about this because you came from Indiana to Dallas, and it should have been a pretty quick flight and a quick short run to the hotel. So I am very curious on how wild this story is going to get. You've hyped me up for it, so I'm curious. Let's hear it.
Yeah, I messaged Dalton. I said I got quite the story to tell you about how I got to Laracon. Yeah,
I've been waiting.
So I've been to, this would be my 4th Laracon, and I've been to Chicago, took the train. I've been to New York, took the subway. All great experiences. And so I flew from Louisville to Dallas, and growing up in Oklahoma, I have been to Dallas numerous times, baseball games, concerts, etc. So growing up, I knew it was very clean. I've seen Chicago, I've seen New York. You see a little, a few interesting things here and there.
A little rough around the edges.
There's a lot of locals, like a lot of people that live in the city, but for the most part, everyone's in the hustle and bustle. You're in as the mix with everybody else, right? So in advance, I plug in, just trying to figure out how I'm going to get to my hotel. I plug in Uber, and it says like $65. And I was like, whoa, okay, that's a little steep. So I was like, we'll just see, it was in the evening. And so I was like, we'll just see when we get there what the price is going to be like. So flight was great. Once we land, I pull up Uber, and it was like $70. And I was like,
no.
This journey. Everyone else during this time, people are coming in from Laracon from Europe, all over the United States. I imagine everyone's trying to get on an Uber. I look at trying to just Google taxi services, and it was just, I don't know. There wasn't any taxis outside the airport or anything, like you would see in bigger cities like Chicago, New York, like I was talking about. So didn't see anything like that. So I did know about the train. I looked at the map in advance and saw the train, was attached to the airport. I walk over to the train station, and it was pretty clean. It was quiet. It was probably about 9:00 at night, I would say. There was a few people there with their luggage and things like that. I did notice a few homeless people, but nothing out of the ordinary. Nothing to be worried about. I go up to the ticket machine. It's $3 for the train ticket. I get my wallet out, and then I notice. Right, yeah. I get my wallet out, and I notice there's a sticker on it. It says cash only. And cash only in 2024 is kind of a rarity these days.
What is cash?
Exactly. I usually don't have it, but luckily, I was ready in case, I needed something for this exact situation. But you kind of know, maybe, restaurants or something, maybe cash only, but for actual machine cash only, it's kind of a rare thing for these days. But happy to pay cash. Get out my wallet, insert $20 for that $3 train ticket, expecting, to get a train ticket and presumably my $17 back in a dollar amount. So train ticket comes out, and the receipt comes out, and here I am waiting for my change to get back, and I hear this like cling, 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 cling.
Yeah. Oh, no.
It's like I just won the jackpot at a casino. It's like cling, cling, cling. Mind you, there's these homeless people. Like, I'm at this ticket and there's these homeless people kind of sitting all around, just kind of. This is so much change that I can't put it in my pocket. I'm carrying I have my hand full of coins. I can't put it in my pocket. So I'm like scooping it into my bag. So I quickly board the train after I get my
Poor guy.
I quickly board the train after I get my casino winnings, my jackpot winnings. I look at Google Maps. It says 15 stops. I'm happy to wait. I'm happy to save, $60 with Uber cost. So happy to wait there. I don't have children. I don't have to entertain. I'll just relax. I'll get on Telegram, Twitter, and talk to people. Maybe hopefully find someone that's on this train, on the way in, etc. Train's clean. There's just people that have just got off the airport with me. Nothing too bad. We get to the first stop, mind you, 15 stops. We get to the first stop, and about 75% get off the train there. And then what I realized is that first stop was like it's like a cheaper option to pay, and then you take the train in. Probably save a lot of money doing that. So probably like a little Dallas hack,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we continue. We have 14 more stops. We go, and this is from Dallas-Fort Worth. We go by all the subdivisions, etc., colleges. That's pretty clean. Then we get to Love Airport. Love Airport, we pick up a few more. Same thing kind of happens. The next stop, we drop them off. So we're about 10 stops left, right? We get closer into the city, and it just gets more and more interesting by each and every stop. At one point, it was me and like just a few others, but they're on the very back of the train car. But mostly just me. We lost just about all the rest of the people. But now I figured out why people don't take the train. So as we approach the city, there'd be people, like you go to the baseball games, there's people that off the side, they try to sell you water and stuff like that. And I understand they're really trying to make make ends meet, but people like that get on. There'd be a guy coming through the train car and have like a little cup out and just go, just walking through train car by train car, holding out his cup, asking for money. And here I am with my casino jackpot earnings, and just my backpack just like clinging around. And which, by the way, I don't know if you can hear that, but it's right on my desk here. The coins are still in my bag. So if I move, all these coins, start making noise.
Yeah, you can't shake your hand no at him because he's gonna jingle.
Yeah, you're right. We finally get to the final stop, and I get off the train, and there's probably 30 homeless people at this train station. And I'm the only one. As far as I was aware, I had tunnel vision at that point, just because I was kind of in a fight or die mode or what they say. What's that saying?
Fight or flight.
Flight. Yeah, it was kind of. Yeah. I was very just like tunnel vision of my safety, just full 360 watching all around me. Because I get off there and I'm just completely surrounded. I have the train to my back, completely surrounded. All I see in my peripherals is people sitting in the benches and. Just, though it just wasn't good. This is the hour train ride in. Now it's about 10:30 at night, and I'm like quick to get out of there. I just start booking it, out of the train station. So get out of the train station, and there is no one downtown Dallas. I'm figuring, I understand it is like Monday night. I understand it is kind of quiet. It's for a Monday or versus a weekend. No one around, and so I just start booking it quickly, to get to my hotel where I need to go. At this point, I don't even have time to like stop and try to get an Uber, because I just need to focus on where I'm going. Because if I'm looking at my phone trying to get that arranged, I just need to pay attention for sure. Yep. So I get down the street, I see a club, there's some like young people there. I'm like, oh, okay, well, at least a bit of civilization. And I just start booking it to my hotel. But yeah, it was like, for a little while, I was the only one just walking around. Yeah, it was a little sketchy. Made sure to take the Uber back home after that.
You pay the $70.
Sure. Right. I get to my hotel, and where the venue is, it's kind of it's on the eastern side of Dallas. And looking in hotels in advance, there was a really nice hotel that Laravel actually recommended to do it, and it was like $450 a night. And mind you, I pay for Laracon all out of my pocket, and so this is all expenses paid for myself. $400 a night is a little steep, just like And I've known from previous Laracons, I just go to my hotel just to sleep and get back up and just get back at it, right? I did see there was a hotel. It's called a micro hotel. And I knew going in what a micro hotel was. It's like, it's just exactly, it's a small room. They made it very clear your hotel room is fairly small. And I go in and it's just nothing but like a bed, a TV, and a bathroom. And it felt like almost like a prison cell. You don't realize how small a hotel room is until you don't have windows in the room. And so
like
it was fun.
Ship.
It was good. Yeah, it was good, but it was just like, I probably wouldn't do it again. Yeah, kind of like a cruise ship, but sometimes a cruise ship you have like a window. But yeah, I've been in those interior rooms, but when you don't have a window in the room, it just feels so much smaller. But it was just a place to sleep. It was fine, but it was just like, dude, I probably should have did a little bit more research going into this trip. I was just thinking, going as a kid, I went to Dallas all the time, and I was just like, it'll be fine. And talking to the Uber driver on the way home, he was telling me about how the homeless population has gotten really bad, but I still recommend Dallas. Dallas was great. Don't get me wrong. I would recommend going there. I had a great time, but I didn't do my homework as much as I should have on Dallas. So
a little sketch. You didn't tell the wife this story, did you?
I did. I ended up telling her. In the moment, she was like, she kept asking me for updates on the train, and I was like, yeah, everything's good. Because in the beginning, like when I got on the train, it was good. I was with all those people commuting from the airport. It was good, and I got to Love Airport, and I was like, I'm not going to give you updates right now. So, but I ended up, once I got back home, I ended up telling her,
What a crazy way to start off Laracon. Just the most insane. Because last year when we rode together, you drove to Nashville, and it was just smooth. Not a thing went wrong. Easy peasy. Our Uber driver was cool. And then this time, you win the lottery and have to basically run as like a jingle boy. You're like one of those coin purses that runs, and you're jingling. I was afraid you were going to tell me you got like a pod room, and the pod is, they're not built for people 6'5" plus. You know what I mean? So you had to sleep with your legs crunched up to your chest all night.
Yeah, it was quite the experience, dude. So yeah, Nashville is good because they have that vibrant, nightlife. Any day of the week you go to Nashville, they are rocking on that.
They are bumping
Broadway. It's so much fun. And but yeah, Dallas on a Monday night. Watch out. Just watch your back.
Oh no. Yeah, don't run around with $15+ of quarters in your pocket.
For sure. Yeah. All right, but getting into Laracon.
Man, I'm very curious. Just up front, just like off the top of your head, don't even think about it. What was your favorite talk at Laracon?
It's so hard to. I'm thinking about it. It is so hard because everyone brought it. Even the technical talks were amazing. Somebody flew a drone on stage with WebSockets. Yep.
Well, we were slacking about that. My mind was blown when that came out of the box. I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah, Laravel Cloud, very excited about that. Everyone just brought it. When I was watching the talk, I was trying to consider, talk to more, try to find time for vendors, because during breaks I was talking to people, different developers, and I just never got a time to actually go up and talk to vendors. I talked to a lot of people at Titan and a lot of people at Vehicle, but never got to really go do the whole bingo card thing, or it was just nonstop talking, and it was so good. But as far as the talks go, it's so hard to give you a favorite, because that was actually the first time I got a little teary-eyed at Laracon. There's been some hard talks over the years, but Cap, she has I forget her last name. She's an amazing developer and community member. Comes from a JavaScript background, React background. Her husband has a Laravel background, and so she kind of got her love just from checking in what her husband is doing. She kind of tells her backstory about where she started and how she overcome, she had sexual harassment and stuff like that.
Yeah, that one.
Did you see that talk?
Mm-hmm. I was watching it.
How especially if you are a parent, it was just it just pulls on your heartstrings. They had, I think it was a 2-week-old, baby, that they struggled with. But yeah, it was just so powerful about building your tribe, making sure that the people around you are supportive, and finding that right place, finding that right tribe. It was so good. So that's actually one of the big highlights. But all of them were spectacular. Daniel Colburn had the best event sourcing talk I've ever heard.
I liked that one a lot.
It was actually like something that happens at our work, or that would happen at our workplace, like how you would handle a situation. And I've heard all of these practical or all of these like theoretical talks on event sourcing. Like if you have this situation, like a to-do list, and then it changes statuses, and then but something messes up, but then you can replay the event, and just like, okay, yeah, but this is way more practical about this, about the way that they did it. And what he did was a pyramid scheme game. Did you hear about this? They kind of mentioned it, right?
I heard about the game, and only through his talk.
It was wild. This game was wild. I think it was $1,200, and so it was supposed to be in a briefcase, but it was like in a plastic bag because they couldn't get the briefcase to the Airbnb on time, and so we just carried around this $1,200 all in ones, all around Laracon. Yeah. So yeah, the game was like incredible. It was like designed like pyramid, but the idea was that you get one vote every so often. You can either upvote another player or downvote them. Kind of similar to Reddit, but there's other things that happened in the game. Like at one point, the scoreboard turned off and you couldn't see everyone else's score, and so during the event, yeah, it was pretty wild. During the event, you could find like around the venue, you could find these cards that would give you bonus points. Like they put them in bathrooms and stuff, and just different areas. And on day 2. I didn't really play it a whole lot on day 1, but on day 2, I was in line to get coffee, and a guy came up to me, and he was like, "Hey, I noticed you have 5 points on the pyramid game." He said, "I'll buy them from you." I was like, "Okay." I was like, "This is, I'll just give them to you." I was like, "This is just, you coming to me is just worth the effort of you going through." Yes. And he's like, he's like, "Thank you so much." And he pulled out his phone. He has a spreadsheet of everyone he's been asking. And I saw him going around the room looking for like the little, like the card hints to see if there's any like hidden or tucked away. But what he would do, I saw him doing this. He would type in their name, like he would go see their name badge and type it in to see what their scorecard is, and then go offer to buy his points. But he would tell me like, "Okay, don't play your points. Like, don't give me your points until like 4:55, like right before the end of the game." He had just wild stuff. He was scheming. So I went over and started talking to Daniel. I told him about it, and then John, his co-founder, he came over and he said, it gave me a handshake, but in his handshake was a bonus card for bonus points. Like, "Thanks for the info." So it's like, "Got you some bonus points." I got to go tell the other guy, "Got you some bonus." So I ended up giving his points, but there's all sorts of these groups, and somebody else ended up winning it, and it was a group that, it was a really cool idea. He's like, he's going to use the money to sponsor someone to come to Laracon next year to come and join our tribe.
Aww.
So that was kind of a neat event.
Come on,
but
Laravel.
Can't get upset with that. Yeah.
No,
yeah, I know. Yeah,
that's sweet.
Speaking of the love with the Laravel community, I keep going here. What do you have for me? Like, I feel like I could talk all day about Laracon. I had a great time, obviously. Do you have anything for me so far?
Well, I mean, because I didn't go this year. We went last year. I didn't go this year.
We talked about talks, right? I didn't give you a chance. I apologize about that. What was probably some of your favorite talks, or your highlights that really resonated with you?
Yeah, so since I didn't go, I was watching the live stream. Unfortunately, the live stream went down several times, and I did have some meetings that were scheduled during other talks. Like I missed Caleb's Flux talk, and that was the one I was the most excited about. I got to watch it, but I didn't get to hear it. So like I had the meeting on one hand, I had my my webcam turned off, and I had his talk pulled up on the other hand, and I was just watching it. It was great from what I saw. I haven't listened to it yet, but the ones that I did get to watch in full and listen to were Daniel's. I liked his a lot. I like him. He was almost kind of like Willy Wonka. Like his talk was very Willy Wonky. Like it was almost on the edge of just complete disaster, but you knew that he had organized it to be that disaster, and he was always going to fix it in the end. Really, really liked that talk.
It's funny because you said Willy Wonka, and we actually had a Willy Wonka, Jack McDade. That was such a good design talk.
I saw a little bit of that one because he came out and he was after Caleb right on the second day. He was the second talk of the second day. Yeah, I saw a little bit of his, but my meeting was still going on during that time, so I didn't get to listen to his talk.
Highly recommend that one too if you get a moment. Yeah, that one is really good. It's kind of like a design for developers, but yeah, man, sorry to catch up.
I saw some of the like his slides. They were very goofy looking, but
very Jack McDade.
Yeah. I liked the drone talk. That one was really cool. That one blew my mind completely. Like, I think you slacked me like, are you seeing this? And I was like, yeah, I'm captivated. Like, this is insane to see at a Laracon. My favorite talk is probably a tie, and this might be the fanboy in me, but I really liked Taylor's talk on Laravel, obviously. Some of the stuff that's coming out is really great. We talked about what we thought Laravel Cloud was going to be, and that's sort of what it was, right? Vercel for Laravel. But I also really liked the Primogens talk because how could you not? I mean, they seem to always end Laracon on one of those types of talks. Like last year was Aaron Francis, this year was Primogen. And it's just sort of those really nice, wholesome ones that you could end on and feel, you know what, I'm going to go build something just for me. Like I don't need anybody else. I'm just going to do this for fun, for me, because I like it and I want to do it. And so yeah, my favorite talk's probably a tie between Taylor's and Primogen's, with a very, very close second for Daniel's because I love Willy Wonka. And that one gave me his talk gave me anxiety. Like, oh no, he's ruined the production database live on stage in front of everybody. Oh, never mind, he's got a fix for it.
I love that because everyone thought it was like actually there was some actual issues in there, like the migrations were he deleted the migrate. That was actually a real issue that he didn't expect, but the rest of it is all kind of a skit, and it was like perfect because everyone like was following along with that. We all thought it was real, and like, whoa, is the way that was presented. It was the best event sourcing talk I've ever heard.
I like that one a lot. Very close second for me.
I had goosebumps just in so many talks, just from, like you said, the Primogen, and one of my favorite quote by him. I'm not going to get this exact. I should have wrote it down ahead of the show, but it was like, if everything else is against me, then just keep doing this thing. Like, just keep coming in and showing up and giving it your all, and and eventually something amazing will happen. You'll get there. And I just. The whole talk just resonated with me. How it was just so casual. He walked in, no presentation, no laptop. He's such a natural. I know he's been streaming on Twitch for a while, but really good dude. I got to talk to Primogen for a little bit, and it's so nice. And first thing, anyone that meets me, like, oh my gosh, you're incredibly tall, and stuff like that. But he was just such a nice dude. He has hundreds of thousands of followers, and just for him to spend the quality time to understand my story, like coming from, being a carnival operator or working at a theme park, and where I'm leading up to learning and becoming a developer. Because I know his story, and his story is just a lot more. There's just a lot more to it than that. He had got involved into drugs and just like really changed his life, and my story is just not that great, but he just takes the time to understand and talk through my story and just ask me questions. He's just such an incredible dude, and it was so nice to meet him. We talked previously about the podcast idea I had, and for listeners of the show that have not heard, I've had this idea for a podcast before the show, an idea of interviewing Laravel developers. The tentative name for the podcast is Artisan's Journey. And what I would be doing is I would be interviewing Laravel developers and understanding their story of where they come from. Similar, I just talked about Primogen's story, even though he's not a Laravel developer. But
semantics.
I would maybe.
I consider him now. After the Laracon, I consider him now.
Yeah. I would interview Laravel developers. People have been at Laracon or just in the community, and understand their story of how they got into Laravel or how they got into development, what their story is from, but just understanding their story of where they started and how they got into Laravel and what keeps them passionate, what keeps them excited about writing Laravel today, in hopes of helping others on their journey in either becoming a Laravel developer if they're new, or if you're an experienced Laravel developer, bettering your skills. Yeah, so that's kind of the idea of the show. As we talked about, we talked briefly on the show about, I have kind of a list of like 50, 60 people, and I started talking to some of these people at Laracon and just kind of getting their stance. They're ecstatic. They are all about it. And
all right.
It's so nice to just have their feedback and have their blessing. Some of them told me they wanted to be on the show before I even asked them. It just felt like, to me, it was just so incredible just to, we have all these great shows out there that we hear. To be completely vulnerable and to be completely honest, this really scares me of doing this show, because I want it to be a good show. If I'm tuning into the show, or if I hear about this show and there's somebody interviewing somebody else, I want that to be like a good professional experience. That's a show that people resonate with, that it's impactful to them. I just don't want it to be some other show that's half done, or or just like a show that's not professionally sounding. I guess that just comes in the perfectionist mind of me. Just hearing the sound of my own voice just gives me anxiety. When I think of the idea of interviewing people, gives me anxiety. If I have a scale and if I'm deciding the power of interviewing people, I would say I'm below average. But that's just a lot of imposter syndrome setting in, and that's just a lot of things that are in my own head. Because if I see this show, or somebody advertises it, I'd be like ecstatic just to listen to some people's story and understand where they come from, in hopes of helping my own journey of becoming a better Laravel developer. It's so hard to get out of that headspace. And I talked to Aaron about this, and he said, you're going to hear a lot of that. And he said, I just want you to do it. Like, no matter who tells you, or those voices in your head that tells me no. I don't care if people say that it's a bad show, or if I hear something or somebody says, oh, that show is terrible. What I care about is the people who actually do listen. I want it to resonate with them. I want it to feel like they learn something from it, that they can take something away. I don't care if somebody just, there's people that might hate it or something. Totally fine. But the ones that actually do care. You know what I mean? So, yeah. And I talked to a lot of, like, Aaron was one. Aaron was one of the first people to tell me, like, I want to be on the show. He didn't say, I want to be on the show, but he said, if you want me to be on the show, I am 100% in. Like, this is great. I love it.
Yeah. That'd be a great episode number 1. Just...
He even said that. I was like, if you want me to be your first one? He's like, he said, don't reach out to me this week. I said, oh, Aaron, we're nowhere close. We're months away. Yeah. Yeah. Talked to Matt Stauffer. Matt Stauffer had a season 3 of the Laravel official podcast. He did that similar show like I talked about in the previous show. Mm-hmm. And I asked some of his ideas, and he said, this is great. We learn, he said on his show, we picked a particular topic and kind of ran with it, but kind of understand what their origination on that topic, versus this is just like a story. And he said, I just love that idea. And we got to talking about there's all these wonderful people in the community now. We hear their technical talks, we see what they share on Twitter, but understanding how they got to where they are, it's such a powerful story of how they got to learning and what keeps them passionate, what keeps their drive going. Matt, definitely, he gave me the blessing on that. He's like, I'd love to help you with that. I'd love to be on the show. So Matt Stauffer, Daniel Colborn said he would love to be on. Yeah, it was it was so cool just being able to get their blessing from each one of these people. I'm curious on your thoughts on that.
So it's like you're gonna do it now, right? Like you have to. You almost have to. I think you should. If you've got Aaron Francis on board, I think you got something. Especially if he's number 1. Like, he would be a great number 1. Let's say you recorded it and you ended up not liking it. Still probably should put it out because it's Aaron Francis.
Yeah. Because
he's just a great dude. And you're a great dude too. You're a good friend of mine. I consider you one of my good friends. We've been buddies since, I don't even want to do that math, 7 or 8 years.
been a long time.
So
I
mean,
appreciate that, dude.
You've got the experience, right? You've been in the Laravel community for a long time. You've been to several Laracons. You've got great ideas, and I think it's great that you might have other people on to share their ideas with you specifically. Like just this little Midwestern boy talking to some quote-unquote bigwigs of the Laravel community just to see what makes them human. You know, you could see these guys and gals on stage, and they're sort of like these larger-than-life, almost like celebrity personalities. But if you get them in a room by themselves and just ask, hey, where did you come from? They're a lot more human. So I think you should.
And Aaron Francis is probably the greatest example of that, of how vulnerable he can be, you know. And I'm not asking
his talk
for
last year was crazy.
It was phenomenal. And I'm not asking for every guest to be that vulnerable. Maybe if their story isn't that, like if it's just the typical got a CS degree and continued on, which is not very standard, but then from there it's just like what keeps them excited, what keeps their drive going, what gets you excited about Laravel development, and what keeps you going today. So
yeah, and you don't need hot wings or any of that weird gimmicky stuff. Like you could just have one of those deep conversations without hot wings, without naming a particular show, but you know what I mean.
Dave,
No
what's his name? Yeah, it's a good dude. Yeah. Yeah, and I going to the interview, I plan on doing the style of the interview is just like I plan on doing a bit of homework. Because like Aaron, for example, so many people know the story of Aaron, how he started he was an accountant, and then he kind of led up to like, becoming a Laravel developer. I don't want to get into like the bare bones of like how did you get into the computers, but so much of just what is already out there and kind of connecting the dots. And like, I know you're like reading, you're an accountant, and then where you are today. What was that experience like to get to where you are? Just kind of set them up for success. And I might send them some questions ahead of time, or just trying to figure out the right format if I want to do it that way, or if I just want to keep an open book of like, how'd you get started? You know, yeah. So, but yeah, I have a lot of good ideas, but yeah, it terrifies me, dude. It just, yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'd be honest with you. If I was in your shoes and I had like Aaron Francis or Caleb Porzio on a call and I was supposed to interview them or ask them questions, I would be my pants would be full because I would do the number 2 in them. You know, I'm trying to keep this PG. If I would not be okay. So
I hear you.
I understand the anxiety around here, 100%.
Well, to your point, I've been thinking about this for a long time, you know, and I knew coming into Laracon, this is kind of where I was going to ask these people that I would want to be on the show for their idea. And as I'm talking to them, I'm in my head thinking like, this is it. This is the moment. And I gotta like get out of that headspace of just being in the moment versus like, because you have a lot of lead up into the moment, and then once you're actually in it, you're in your head of like, whoa, I'm talking to this guy. This is the moment that I've been waiting for. And then just trying to escape that headspace into actually just being there and actually connecting with that person. Because you could get a lot of, there's a term for it, just being like when you see a celebrity, like just getting super excited, just to starstruck. Yeah, I don't know. It just lose my mind. Yeah, I'm brain fried from Laracon. Yeah, but being starstruck from meeting some of these people, just trying to just have a human conversation with these people. So yeah, a lot of social anxiety with that, but we'll getting through
That's
it.
the developer way right there. Social anxiety, but you do it anyway because why not? You should.
Yeah.
I think you should. I know you talked about doing this podcast for years, and then just all of a sudden you're like, let's do it. And here we are, episode 4, 4 weeks in. And I think it's going pretty great. I like talking to you. We normally talk about this stuff anyway, just through Slack.
Yeah.
So we recorded it. So in case anybody else wants to hear our ramblings about Laravel, I think it works out great. Even if nobody really listens, it's still fun to just talk to you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, dude. I appreciate the feedback and all that. So thanks for that. Let's get into Cloud. I really like the idea of Laravel Cloud. We've personally been battling at the agency of things like this, of where we have a production environment, we have a staging environment. They're set up great. They're working well. We have something in staging that people are testing out. We have this possible feature, this questionable feature that we maybe even looking to A/B test or etc. We don't want to put it in staging yet because staging is kind of that it's near ready to go to production. Like we're going to put up the staging in hopes of making it to production. We don't even know if we want it to be there. So we have this feature, this questionable feature branch, and we have to go into Forge, create this like random server, can get it all set up, and
DNS. You got to set a subdomain or some other thing.
So the idea of just creating a PR and then it fires off like a request to cloud and then create, and all of a sudden you have this Laravel Cloud link and you can just share it with whoever. So that just sounds amazing to me.
I'm a big fan of everything about it, specifically because it seems like it meets that like middle ground between Forge and Vapor. Like Forge, it's sort of like, hey, here's some tools to help you with server management. And Vapor's like, okay, we'll sort of hide some of the server management behind our UI. And Laravel Cloud's just like, we're going to do everything for you. And I've been super happy with Vercel recently. I have all of my like personal sites. This is going to sound so weird because this is a Laravel podcast, but I have my personal sites in Next.js on Vercel for that reason, because I like Vercel's hosting. So I'm super, super excited for what Laravel Cloud is going to be. As Taylor was talking about it, I was like, the domain already has to be there. So I typed in cloud.laravel.com. Boom, it popped right up. So as he was talking about it, I signed up for the wait list because obviously I've got stuff that I'm going to launch here soon that I really want. I would love to be on Laravel Cloud, specifically for that hibernation feature. So I had apps on Heroku before that were, they automatically put them to sleep after X amount of time, but you have to like manually wake them up. With Cloud, it hibernates when you're not using it, and it just wakes itself up. So you only pay for what you use. And I'm like, yes, please let me in. I'll pay for it now. I don't even care.
We're talking about the atrocity of setting up a Forge temporary server, but how many times do we poke the client for days to like, hey, go check this out, and we don't hear back, and then we get the bill at the end of the month and there's an extra little like cost in there and like, oh, we forgot to turn that server off, Hibernation is so key. And I was talking to Taylor at the after party, and I was asking him about the hibernation wake up time, and he said at least from like a base Laravel app, they're seeing like a 4 to 5 second cold start. So if your database is off, if your application off, he said if your database is off, it does take more time, but that's actually what takes the majority of it. That's just so nice, because even if you do get a visitor, you just have that one little blimp and then you're so good. Or if that client does eventually realize they need to check this out. So it's super nice. I also talked to him about Postgres. Did you see all the love of Postgres?
I didn't, no.
Okay, so traditionally, Laravel is MySQL. They're kind of diverse. Any of the analytics and any of the surveys, MySQL is the leading database provider. And Laravel Cloud, they promote Postgres a lot and I got to talking of what's if he prefers Postgres over MySQL and something like Laravel Cloud, and he said that they do offer MySQL as well, but it's more of like a fixed size, and so but then he got to talking about like Postgres just offers more features and stuff like that. So like, I can't remember but I know just top of my head, I know they have like data branching and stuff like that in replicating. So if you need to replicate, staging to another environment, something like that.
Okay.
So that made sense to me. Of like, I've actually never used Postgres. Everyone who uses Postgres loves it. So I'm like, yeah, give it a try. So.
All right. Well, I guess I'm going to add that to my list to try. I'm curious then if, so I mean, is MySQL one of the reasons why it takes longer and Postgres just takes shorter amount of time to boot back up from cold? Or could you do like how Laravel does their like local development now and just have like a SQLite file database, because I think they said something about Laravel Cloud was going to have disk space. It's not like Vapor where it's, completely serverless. So could you just have an SQLite file database and then your cold starts, only a second or two?
Right. You can, as far as I know right now, you can bring in what you want. You can bring in your own logging driver, different services. What I was curious of is if like a migrational path from Forge, if I wanted to migrate a Forge client over there. And he was telling me that the databases would be really tricky because in Forge, there's just some very diverse setups. And you don't know what the database is going to be. You don't know if it's connected to a remote SQL server, something like that, or if it's just on file, or what the case might be. He said for probably at least starting out for some of very large Forge clients, if they are interested in that, they would probably manually do that with their team that they have.
Okay.
But at least that's something he didn't have, at least starting off with, the whole V1 release. So yeah, it'll be kind of interesting. I honestly, it would be probably so easy to set it up anyway. If you start out comparing the two, you could just replicate it onto cloud, and because you're already going to have your applications already, if it's already super easy to deploy on cloud,
a minute.
you could just
Less
have it all,
than a minute.
all
Did your
set
head
up on
explode
there.
when he said that too?
Yeah, that's great. From just Composer installing Laravel just to having it live on a domain. It's just wild.
I thought he was going to say like 10 minutes. I was like, 10 minutes is pretty good. Vercel's probably about 5 minutes, if that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
1 minute.
Yeah, 1 minute. It's crazy.
Insane.
Yeah.
Insane, man.
At the end, he hinted that Laravel is doing the thing I've been talking about. So they said if you want to understand, well, he kind of halfway through, he threw it out. He was like, for what we're looking to build, we need this kind of setup to be this flexible to handle a lot of data. Then at the end is that if you want to understand how to track your exceptions, I'm trying to remember his exact wording. If you want to track your exceptions and data in your Laravel application, stay tuned for Laracon AU. I was like, ding, 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 ding. It's like, okay, I got my predictions a little right. We'll at least see how correct it is. But it made me a little sad because I had that entrepreneur spark in me of like, I want to build this thing. But I know Laravel will build it leaps and bounds better what I could ever do, because I've been battling this for a while now, just like understanding exceptions, understanding requests that come in. I was just looking at this this morning about looking into some user account and figuring out how they got to the exception of where they are. I got to talk to some developers on this, and they mentioned like Sentry's playback. I've actually had some issues with that, because there's been like, if they have a blocker, or depending on what browser they use, sometimes it's just not there. Like I'll go look at their Sentry and the recordings, and it just doesn't exist. And just like, if I had it logged in like something where in AWS where I know it's there, it'd be easier. Somebody else mentioned a log rocket, which is kind of a similar thing of Sentry.
I've heard of that one.
I just like, and then when Laravel said they're looking into it, I was like, okay, I think I can at least hold off. I'll pump my brakes here and find out.
See, I have the opposite reaction. I just looked it up, and Laracon EU's in November, so I'm like, so you have September and October to build your own first.
Yeah, Laracon AU, right? November?
Yeah, AU.
Yeah.
I think so. So I was like, oh, you got 2 weeks to sort of build your own to see if what yours compares to what theirs is.
I have full faith in the Laravel team. They have 30 plus people. They did that shot on stage. That was just incredible. When they called everyone up on day 2 to the Laravel team to take a group shot, just like they filled the stage. It was just left or right, full of Laravel employees. It was just incredible. Coming from the days where it's just Muhammad and Taylor, it's just wild to me.
Yeah, I mean, what did he say in his talk, that they did Laravel Cloud in 6 months? And it's like, it's going to be ready by the end of this year. That's insane that they could even do that. I listened to a little bit of the Matt Stauffer, like sort of behind the scenes with Taylor after his talk, to try to just see how they did Laravel Cloud that fast. I can't even build things that fast. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's incredible.
If I had 30 people, I couldn't build that fast.
They have some amazing talent, and they come from different areas, different large companies, and their drive just to make things the Laravel way. It's just so amazing. It's just so cool that we have all these other ecosystems that are looking in, like, hey, you see what Laravel's doing? Like, they're doing some really cool stuff, and there's some people like considering making the switch. Or, like, they've been in ecosystem like where they've had a lot of frustrations. They're saying, look, those guys that use Laravel, they love it, and I want to be a part of that. It's really neat.
Yes, come Symphony devs. We welcome you with open arms. Join us.
Yeah, it's just a really exciting time to be in Laravel. This is kind of a pivot point. Like, I feel like this is like Vapor. This is something I'm trying to realize in my head when I saw Vapor be released. that was kind of a pivotal point as well for that. But now, like with Cloud, in my mind, I'm like, I'm pretty positive this will be like a moment in time where we look back like this is
this is it,
like a milestone for Laravel. They hired all these new people. They have this great new product. Like I feel like 5 years from now, Laravel's just going to be just this huge deal of like we're going to be like, hey, look how just big it's grown and the community behind it. It's going to be really good stuff.
Back in my day, we had to set up servers ourselves on Forge. I had to set up Nginx all by myself.
Back in my day, we had cache tags. Cache tag assignments.
Yeah, cache tag. Oh, man. I had to set up a queue worker by myself. There was no toggle in Forge to set up the scheduler to run. I had to set that up myself.
For sure.
The times.
Yeah.
How the times change.
Yeah. So next show, we will, I'd love to do a deep dive on defer. I'm going to look at that this week probably, or this coming week, about doing a defer versus a job. Because usually anything I want to kick off to a background, I usually just handle it in a job process. But this defer sounds really exciting to me. New to Laravel 11, I think it's going to be baked into that. Concurrency, the flexible cache, I'm going to be using flexible way more than like the remember forever or just remember,
100%. 100%.
So inertia too. We didn't even talk inertia. Oh man, I was so pumped about inertia. I got goosebumps when I saw the prefetching. I'm like, yes, I've been wanting this for a long time. Yeah, because it's going to greatly speed up the, how you hover over a link and it prefetches the next page. So the client's going to love that. It's because there's some things that just want it to be extra snappy and for sure. And then Flux. Like really excited for Flex. How many times have you copied like app blade PHP on your new app and just boop boop? Okay,
I can't tell you literally the amount of times that I do that. Like we have a template repository that has all of that stuff in it because we got so tired of copy and pasting. Every single time.
Then the select box, I usually just pull one from Tailwind UI, and even then it's like I have to figure out how I want to work into a Laravel component. So the fact that it's just all baked into Laravel component names and the naming conventions, I don't even have to think about how I'm going to name a component. I spend so much time like, what am I going to name the select item? But then there's another component that it's like a nested select item. So you might have multiple like iterations inside a select box. There's like there's trees you see inside select boxes. Like it's just like I don't even have to think about it. It's all there. It's all named. You just have to include it in. So we'll talk about next show. I feel like I'm very long-winded. I apologize. So I feel like you just got a couple words in. So I apologize. Do you have anything to say to the people?
No need to apologize. You went to Laracon and I sat at home and did work meetings. So your week was way more exciting than my week. And I only saw half of the talks. I'm definitely going to go watch the rest of them this weekend for sure, and hope and pray that I see an email from Taylor Otwell saying that I got into the wait list for Laravel Cloud. So please send me that link. I want to get in. Sure.
All right, dude. That sounds great. So you've been listening to another episode of the Midwest Artisan. If you are listening, or if you're still listening, reach out. Tell us hi. Tell us if I saw you at Laracon. Thanks so much for tuning in and listening to the show. All right, man. Anything else?
That's it. We'll talk next week.
All right. Peace. See you.